Hi, welcome to the 11th episode of the Student Recap Podcast. Today we have another election episode, and today Benjamin will be joining me. So to start off with, we'll talk about some propaganda that's been spreading throughout the political campaigns of each party recently. Would you like to start, Benjamin?
According to the Republicans, which pretty much pull the worst of what the Democrats say, the Democrats keep calling the Republicans Nazis and fascists, and keep saying that they will completely destroy the country or turn it into a dictatorship. And that rhetoric has resulted in former President Donald Trump and current Republican candidate having two assassination attempts within a month of each other.
So, it's not even that big of a group. I would only say the squad, you know who they are in Congress, would be saying those remarks against the Republicans.
Well, the current Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, has been repeating that rhetoric.
I mean, it is a political campaign, and Trump has used other stuff against her, so even though they shouldn't be
Can you provide
They shouldn't be
examples?
using personal intimidation against the other candidate. They should be using policy against each other. Because though the enemy from within is very similar to other autocratic leaders, it's not directly representative of the ideas that Trump has.
Isn't Kamala saying, what was it? The CCP, be freed from what has been, or something?
I don't know about that. Okay.
She's been repeating former CCP rhetoric during some of her campaigns.
Okay, so she's just repurposing it, but in a weird way.
Directly quoting it, actually.
Oh, directly quoting it? I just think that with the most recent rally in Madison Square Garden, and Kamala's rallies recently,
Didn't
both
she kick out a Catholic protester from one of her rallies?
No, but both politicians, their rhetoric has gotten very directed and heightened compared to what it was a few months ago. The enemy from within comment, Trump was not saying that a few months ago, and he wasn't saying the stop the steal stuff either, because there is an active campaign to slow down the vote counting process, because many Republican legislatures have tried to get laws passed that ban certain types of votes from being counted, or take them longer, or have the deadline for mail-in ballots be shorter. So there's definitely a lot of work on the Republican side to quote-unquote ensure election integrity, but in that case, they're actually just making the election go slower, which could lower the election integrity, actually.
Wouldn't having a mail-in ballot deadline actually speed up the election, but also reduce the amount of votes from mail-in ballots?
So it depends on the county, because in some counties that are more rural, the mail-in ballots favor a certain party. And for example, in Pennsylvania, the mail-in ballots would most likely favor the Republicans, because in those counties that are sparsely populated, then people can really only mail them in. You don't just drive 30 minutes to your county government center.
Or government center. Or whatever.
Yeah, and go vote. For those people, it's let me just send it in the mail. But on the flip side of that, also mail-in voting in some states favors the Democratic Party, because in the 2020 election, early results showed that Trump had a likeliness to win, but that was before all the mail-in ballots were counted, and then the Democrats achieved the lead.
Okay. You want to move on to policy now?
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that Kamala has said that I completely disagree with is the $25,000 rebate for first-time home buyers. Because one, how do we fund that? Two, very bad idea. You're not stimulating the economy. If you have a more productive economy that people can raise their wages, and those higher wages would allow them to buy a house without needing that rebate, that's better than like taking government money and applying it to that.
Also, wouldn't it just increase the amount that people sell their houses by like 25,000?
Yeah, technically it would, and
Because that's how economics works.
furthermore, with the government money being spent, like, we don't want any more debt.
Yeah. What else?
Okay, I have
There's
a,
also the price surge thing that she's trying to get
price
passed through.
gouging.
Or price gouging.
I
Some
say
difference.
for certain commodities, for automobiles and supermarket, like groceries, I think that should definitely be in place.
Groceries should not, because the price would depend based on region because of transportation costs,
Oh, okay.
as well as other factors.
Yeah.
But, like, also,
Well, on
stores
a
already
state-by-state
can't-
basis.
No, it'd be district by district.
Oh, district by district.
But
Oh, then
then-
that'd be way too
but it's-
complicated.
It'd be way too big of a government agency, and I think currently the act wants, basically, stores need an act of Congress to raise their prices currently.
Yeah, that seems kind of bad. But, like, also, Trump, he's not doing anything to stop those big companies from inflicting, like, pricing that's predatory towards consumers. He actually supports those big companies by giving them tax cuts.
By giving them tax cuts, he's increasing their profit margins so that they can afford to lower prices.
But,
and-
like, if you give tax cuts to Elon Musk, he's not going to make his Teslas any lower priced. In fact, recently he just said that making a $25,000 Tesla was actually a stupid idea and that he should have never started that project.
That's because EVs are really expensive and they're never gonna get down to the same price as regular gasoline-powered vehicles.
Not unless we follow Chinese technology.
You mean labor laws.
Well, the sodium-ion batteries are,
Sodium-ion batteries.
Yeah, sodium-ion batteries are more price-efficient. And then we don't use lithium and destroy rainforests in the process.
There's also other EV battery tech that they're working on right now. Well, not Tesla, but other companies. Let's see what else. Immigration.
Immigration. I think both candidates both agreed that immigration's a problem and they have different ways to solve it. It's not that the Democrats are saying, no, it's not a problem anymore.
Yeah, but they're not... Well, Trump did stop that one act. But the Democrats could have at any point shut down the border
Yeah, but
during
they needed...
Biden's presidency. Biden can just
Yeah,
pretty
but
much
he's
say
not going to
it.
do that. And also, the Republicans in Congress killed the bill that would have helped in
Yeah,
that.
but the president has the authority to just shut down the border without an act of Congress.
Oh, I mean, an act of Congress would make it more legitimate. And...
It's one of the presidential powers. It already is legitimate.
Okay, I get that, yes, but also the Republicans fought against him because they wanted to make sure that he wouldn't have anything good on his record on immigration.
He could have done it without Congress.
But he wasn't going to do it, so that's why he was only, he only wanted to do the Congress Act because he wasn't so forceful on the issue.
I say we just let the National Guard arrest and detain people.
Bad idea.
Why is that a bad idea? It doesn't violate the Posse Comitatus Act, and it increases the amount
But the
border
National Guard is part of the army.
No, it is not. It's a part of the state's militia, pretty much.
State's militia.
It's not part of the federal army. So it does not violate the Posse Comitatus Act, and it increases the amount of border agents on the border without actually having to increase the amount of personnel that they recruit.
Oh, okay, here's the problem with arresting all the illegal immigrants, right?
Nowhere
So,
to put them.
a study showed that by deporting or arresting all of these immigrants, the U.S. Agriculture sector would go down in 5 to 12% over the next 12 years because of they just don't have the labor. And
That's why we should streamline the immigration process,
Yeah.
but also crack down on illegal immigration. Because if they're illegal, they can't go to the police because out of fear of being deported.
Yeah.
So then their employers pay them less than minimum wage.
So, yeah, they should definitely, like, have this farm workers visa that you just go in, you
Wouldn't
work...
that just be a work visa?
Yeah, work visa. But specifically for the agriculture with a few more protections because farm workers, it's harder work than, like, let's say working as a cashier, and there's more human rights that can be infringed upon. Because obviously, back in the 20th century, Cesar Chavez, he was a labor leader for migrant workers in California. He fought for better, like, conditions for the workers because they're basically just out there in the middle of the day picking grapes or tomatoes or whatever other crops that a farm was growing. Also on foreign policy, do you know if Trump is still like with Putin for ending the war by having Ukraine cede its territory over?
I think currently his policy for that is to end the issue by basically just forcing them Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelensky into a room, and whichever side doesn't want to work towards peace, they get sanctions.
Wait, but like, what's also really weird is that Russia, they already have so many sanctions, but there's like a bunch of loopholes that they've found in order to keep their economy running.
I think Trump's thing is he's going to crack down on the loopholes if Putin doesn't want to move towards peace, and he's going to stop sending aid to Ukraine if Zelensky doesn't want to move towards peace. But also, if Vladimir Putin doesn't want to move towards peace, he's going to open the floodgates for aid to Ukraine.
So here's what I see, right? A smaller country was invaded and attacked by a larger country that is using literal criminals as soldiers.
And North Koreans now.
Yeah, and North Koreans. Kim Jong-un's being a bit silly. So they definitely should have the upper hand in determining the status quo because they were the ones that are the victims. They are afflicted by a foreign invader.
You're talking about Ukraine, right?
Yes, Ukraine.
Okay. I think right now, because Russia is currently using North Korean soldiers, NATO might get involved, and it won't be viewed as an escalation because Russia started using foreign soldiers first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a possibility that NATO gets involved in the war in Ukraine.
But also, I mean, North Korea, they might only be sending their crappy weapons. Like,
no, they're sending their soldiers. And Russia is supplying the uniforms and the equipment.
So it's not like the U.S. sending soldiers to Poland to train other soldiers.
No,
for NATO.
It's North Koreans actively fighting inside of Ukraine.
I need to see some video footage. It would actually be so funny to see North Koreans halfway across the world.
Yeah. Also, I think their military training is so helpful. They're breaking bricks with their head.
Yeah, concussions, guys. Definitely not going to have a higher risk of PTSD or other brain or mental disorders.
That's what that training's for. So that they don't get TBIs in combat.
Oh, so, we discussed this in a, government club, or sort of politics club as well yesterday. So, we had to propose, policies from a fictional political candidate that resembled...
No, we had to debate policies. We were given the policies.
Yes, we were given the policies. And they were from fictional candidates, but they seemed very correlated to real candidates. Not the ones in the presidential election completely, though. And one of the things that Benjamin argued was by, lessening the military presence in the U.S. overseas, then we can fund more mental health for both soldiers and for the nation overall, because some of the opioid crisis is based on mental health issues.
And the veteran suicide crisis.
Yeah, so...
Actually, in Ukraine's peace plan that they just put out, they said they will replace the U.S.'s presence in Europe as the premier fighting force, since they have the most current fighting experience against the enemy that Europe would primarily face. if NATO immediately accepts them into the organization. They will cede all the land that Russia has taken if NATO immediately accepts them into the organization, and they will also replace the U.S. presence in Europe, which would reduce the amount of money we have to spend on transportation for logistics to get equipment to those soldiers, as well as transporting the soldiers to Europe.
Okay, back to the standard election issue. Do you think there's a gender divide in young people over the candidates they're voting for?
Not really.
Because there
It's more
is
of
a
an economical divide.
economical divide. How so?
The upper middle class and I think the working class are voting Republican, and the middle class is voting Democrat.
Oh, so yes, that's a different thing. That I would agree with that the Republicans are more looking towards that non-college educated voter, while the Democrats are looking for somebody who's likely more educated and knows more.
I wouldn't say knows more.
Not knows more in a standpoint of politics, but just has a degree and they'd be in more advanced professions than most of the rural Republicans. No, but what I've seen is that Trump is petitioning to young men. Specifically to young men. The country's so bad. Why don't you vote for me? But the thing is that some of those young men, they weren't even in the workforce when the economy was quote unquote so bad. So it's kind of pointless for him to argue that. And then the thing with the women is that with the reproductive rights, it's just a really good offer to them to vote for Kamala, because realistically, though Trump would not enact a national ban like he said he wouldn't, J.D. Vance could influence him to think otherwise.
I think currently the majority of the Republican Party believes in banning abortion after the first trimester, unless it is, actually no, I think it's just if the life of the mother is threatened.
Yeah.
Rape or incest. Not after the first, and then...
I'm still gonna stand my ground and say 24 weeks, and then, yeah, that's it. Well, 24 weeks, and then, in cases of emergency.
No, I'd say life of the mother, rape, or incest as the 3 reasons you should be able to get an abortion. You shouldn't get an abortion if you were just careless and you just...
Well, is the U.S. government really gonna fund, public service announcements about condoms? No. And they're not gonna fund Plan B, because that would be supporting an already big pharma industry. So, I mean, it's not a bad idea to just give people the choice to have an abortion. It's not your life. You don't need to care about some neighbor.
So you shouldn't care if your neighbor gets killed? If someone breaks into their house and kills them?
Oh, well, but that's different.
How is that different? It's still a life you're ending.
No, because you only...
Or a life that's being ended, I bet.
Well, unless it has brainwaves and a heartbeat and all the functions of a living human, then it's not really a being. It's just a fetus until it has all the features that, a normal human has. If it can't think for itself, which all humans can do, then it's not essentially, one of us. You're not really killing a normal human being, per se.
You're still killing a human being.
Not really, because it can't walk, can
also,
it? It can't think for itself.
You do realize you're basically saying abortion until birth.
No, I'm saying until 24 weeks, because that's when you can detect all the, syndromes and health disorders that it can have. Because, for example, if your child has Down syndrome and you don't want to have that child because it would be too much of a financial burden on your family to pay for all that medication and healthcare costs because your child has Down syndrome, it's definitely a viable option to have an abortion if you can in that state.
We do abortion if the mother's life is threatened. What was it? rape or incest, but we also create a government insurance plan for children that have mental health disorders and other health disorders so that people can afford to have the children.
But it's not really... Okay, some of it is that they can't afford having the child, but some of it is actually that they got pregnant unwillingly, not that they...
That's rape, then.
Not exactly. Not every case of unwilling pregnancy is rape. Because, for example, if two people have intercourse and then they don't realize that one person got impregnated, and that person doesn't notice until, let's say, 6 weeks, and they're like, well, I don't want to have this baby. I didn't mean to get pregnant. They can...
Well, that's actually both of their fault, because they didn't use protection, though.
Yeah, but the U.S. government isn't going to subsidize condoms or any of that, so
Condoms are, less than $1 for a box.
Okay, yes, I get that, but they're not going to subsidize it in the sense that they're going to market it wide out to the public because it's very taboo to talk about sex in America.
They don't need to. They just have to... Sex ed courses are already a thing, Rafa.
Yeah, but they're optional and most kids don't take them.
Then make it, mandatory for, I don't know, seniors or something.
Here's what I see the big problem is. People can't be deciding what others do with their life choices, and by limiting what they can do, that's just infringing upon their person. Not even human rights. It's just you don't tell a person that they can't drive. For example, in Saudi Arabia, the government told women they couldn't drive. Well, that's another person. You can't just tell them they can't drive. Not that abortion and driving are the same thing.
That's because of their religion, because they follow...
Yeah, and the abortion argument is partially, in some areas, based on a religious standpoint, which goes against the separation of state and church because you can't have religious ideologies directly influence government policy.
I still think you're killing a human being if you have an abortion.
And so what? We still have a massive birth rate, so it's
Not really.
But... back to the immigration thing, if we have more legal immigration into the country, then the birth rate will still go up regardless.
Isn't that just net change of the population, not birth rate?
Okay, it is net change, yes, but it's not directly correlated to the proven false Great Replacement theory. Because you're not replacing the population.
That's not what I was saying. I was just saying, you said the birth rate would go up. That's not true, though. It would just increase the amount of people in the country.
Well, yeah, but those people, it's just immigrants have more children. It's historically proven that. I think we can... we can agree to disagree about what the fetus or child may be, but there's definitely other solutions to it, rather than banning abortion. Okay, I think this will end our 11th episode, election update. Hopefully we didn't veer too much off topic, but hope you enjoyed the episode. Bye. Sorry, just a quick correction. This episode was Party Politics 2 2024 election.